Welcome to the second in a series of horror-themed reviews. I know I made the point in the earlier videos I did to mention that I was going to focus generally on more obscure films and more independent and foreign film offerings. However, given the season, I wanted to touch on one that is just an absolute favorite of mine. Honestly, I don't think you can have a complete Halloween without seeing it. It's also a movie that, despite being so well known, I think there's a very large group of people who still haven't seen it, especially the younger crowd. And really, I'm trying to appeal to some of my younger viewers. Not with the R-rated stuff. Don't let your kids watch Hard Candy and American Werewolf in London, please. Okay, and if you do, that's your responsibility, not mine. Okay, I hereby am not advocating for children to see movies that I swear are incredible and shouldn't be missed by anyone. Use your best judgment. Anyway, it was difficult for me to reach the decision to do a review for this film, and it's because of the reason I mentioned earlier, and that this film is just so well known. But again, you know, it's so powerful, and I think it's been very, very influential in the way that a lot of horror movies tell their stories and the way a lot of horror movies build their suspense and build their stories up, that it's worth noting. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about plot and things like that, as much as I am just in the actual movie-making aspect of it, because I think that there's a lot to be gained by really examining the film in a deeper sense of the idea of just how they went and made this film. Really, it's quite an incredible feat that, in my opinion, still very well stands the test of time, and still is genuinely creepy, even after so many years. Now, for those who are not familiar with this film, let me go ahead and give you a basic plot synopsis. A family has recently moved into a new home. The father is involved in real estate, and, of course, you move where the money is, and that's what they've done. Unfortunately, after not too long in the house, some strange occurrences start happening. Things start moving around on their own, strange noises can be heard. Oh, there's a small detail that when something is placed on the kitchen floor, it has a tendency to slide all the way into the dining room without anyone else's assistance. And what actually starts as quite an amazing discovery, and actually fascinates all the members of the family, it very quickly turns into something much more menacing. And it isn't until something that we are all very familiar with, television static, that is familiar with, provided you lived in the time when we still use antennas, or if you're living in a time now where you don't have a digital converter box, because it's such a better technology. And from this static, the youngest daughter, Carol Ann, is called by someone or something. And then all of a sudden, the parents wake up to find that Carol Ann is missing. And it isn't until they find the television and hear Carol Ann's voice coming from within. And so on begins our tale. Now, please, if you're hearing this for the first time, I'm obviously being dramatic about this, but don't pass this off as some kind of weird, kooky flick. Okay, I know that your initial thought could be, really, a kid gets sucked into a TV? That's scary. But believe me when I tell you that it does a much better job of portraying the horror of the film than I can. Here's why. I think we're all familiar with television, we're all familiar with TV static, and really television static is something that is really harmless. I mean, the things we associate it with are the most non-threatening things in the world. We associate it with nothing. There's no more information, there's nothing there, there's nothing present. It's just dead air. We don't really put any sort of feeling into that. This movie turned that all on its head, and it made static the most threatening thing in the world. It's the means by which communication is happening. It really affected a lot of people. And for me, growing up as a kid, in a house that didn't have cable, yes, I know, I didn't have cable, okay, I didn't have Nickelodeon, alright, I didn't get to watch the Disney Channel all the time. It really was something frightening because I was used to turning on the television and flipping through channels on a knob, and it was static. To all of a sudden have that become something that takes children away, you can imagine how it made me feel as a kid. And it really happened the same with a lot of adults, in that, oh my god, here's this thing that we associate with coming right after the national anthem and the speech, "and so ends our broadcast day." And all of a sudden, it's now coming into our house and taking our children away. Believe me when I tell you that it's much more compelling than just trying to pass it off as, oh, a kid gets sucked into a TV and people get scared. It's much better than that. This brings me to the point of the review in which I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to talk about the actual effects of this. If you've watched enough of my videos, you'll know that I'm a big effects freak, in the sense that I love any movie that can pull them off with absolute perfection. And this is one of those movies. And it's another one of those movies that uses mostly practical effects. And anything that is a practical is an optical effect. Optical effects use a series of techniques that are based upon the camera. If anyone has ever seen the original Jaws or the Thriller music video, the scenes in which a person seems to be sitting normally but the background moves in or pulls away from them, that's known as a Zolly shot, and that's an optical effect. Well, those are used to great length in this film. Stuff like that hadn't been seen, at least not to the degree that it had been in this film. Not to mention there are several composite effects which really are mind-blowing when they are witnessed, especially when you consider that this movie came out in 1982. There really were some incredible pioneers in this. And the reason I think that the movie just works so well in general is along with the fact that they've taken something so harmless and made it something so terrifying, is also the fact that the whole thing happens with a single family. You're essentially seeing a family torn apart by the events that are occurring here, and it adds a whole new dynamic to the storytelling. You see parents that have lost a child willing to do whatever it takes to get her back, and when faced with the type of insurmountable odds that you see here, I think it really speaks to a lot of parents, because I think as any parent knows, what is threatening your child is irrelevant. It's the fact that your child is in danger, and that's the driving force behind all of your actions. Everything happens in this film so naturally that you feel that, yeah, I'd do that if that was my kid. It really creates a lot of interesting tension. You have these truly terrifying scenarios, and they really are terrifying. This is a freaky movie. But there is that drive as a parent that it essentially forces the situation, and it forces the actions of the characters. And I think that really helps add to the realism, and I think that's what makes it as scary as it is, and I think that's why it holds up as well as it does. Because this movie really helps capture that family dynamic. If there's something that happens in your family, everyone in the family is going to work to make it better. It really just feels that much more genuine. You really get pulled along for the ride. Something else that I think is really powerful about this film is the lack of safe moments. This movie doesn't offer very many safe moments. There is the possibility for something terrifying to happen at any given point in the story. It keeps you on your toes, and it naturally builds suspense. The entire movie takes place inside one house, so you're in a very confined space, which already gives you the feeling that there really is no escape from this, and you have to face the evils that are lurking within your closet doors. Add to that the point that this is not going to just, disappear for 10 to 15 minutes at a time to give you a chance to catch your breath, and you really start to feel the weight of the power in this house. So when you take all these elements together, what you end up getting is a truly classic horror movie that doesn't rely on a lot of violence and gore and things like that to get the fear across. The fear happens very naturally. It's all because everything is done so seamlessly well. Every effect feels like it isn't one. To translate that statement, everything feels so real that you're not going to bother questioning whether or not it is real. You're just going to accept it. Seeing everything really come together and seeing everything that this family goes through creates quite an interesting concept for a film. What you'll end up with is a truly fantastic film, and one that really does stand the test of time. See it. Check it out. Turn off the lights. And if you still don't believe me in what I say about this movie changing your perceptions about something as simple as static, that's fine. Don't believe me. Really, I really don't care, because let's face it, we all know that this kind of stuff isn't real, and it's just television static. I mean, how dangerous can static be?